Okay, welcome everybody. I'm excited, so excited about this topic today. We're going to be on mastering the art of self-promotion, and specifically, how do we do this to further our careers and get what we want, but still be genuine? This post about our session got huge views, and it told us that this is something that everybody struggles with. So I have an amazing panel that's going to join us. Let me just set the stage for a minute or two and welcome everybody. I've got a couple slides and then we're going to dig right in. My name is Lauren Bailey. I am founder of Girls Club, and I stink at self-promotion. So I found some badass women to help me get better at this. So many of you who are joining us today are new to Girls Club. So let's start with that. What is Girls Club, right? Which is hilarious. I have to tell you, people were like, oh, you know that girl power thing? You know that woman's movement? You know the chick club? It's hilarious that people don't get the name right. First and foremost, Girls Club is a community. For many women in sales and sales adjacent careers, we have to go outside of our own organizational walls to find peers, to find mentors, to find role models. And our goal at Girls Club is to bring that together virtually. So we have well over 1,000 people in the community, and it's growing every single day. Girls Club is also a way for us to give back. We are flooded with mentors and thought leaders. Mentors have about 5 to 10 years of experience in management, thought leaders 15 plus, and a few more wrinkles and gray hairs. And everybody there is excited to help the next generation of women come up into sales and sales leadership. And everybody has agreed to go out and tap shoulders and encourage women to get involved and advance their careers even before they feel 100% ready. And then at the heart of Girls Club, we have an exclusive training program. This is to help women who are aspiring to get into frontline management or possibly brand new into frontline leadership who may not have received training or support in their own companies to get there. This is a 9-month virtual program. There is hands-on job training, like how do I be a good call coach? There's one-on-one mentoring with a woman from another company. There's the community, lots of confidence building, cool sessions like this. This was originally a session to happen inside of Girls Club. And it was so popular that we opened it up for everybody. So that's a little bit about who we are. What are we going to cover today? Number one, how we're going to start internally, and then we're going to move externally, and then we're going to save time for your questions, okay? So we're starting with how do we get noticed at work? How do we advocate for ourselves? We're going to dig deep into that subject. I don't know, I get a little sweaty palmed about promotions and raises. And then we'll talk about building that external brand as well. Why is it necessary? How do we do it? And we'll get your questions. Awesome. It's time to introduce our panelists. And if everything works beautifully here, we're going to see a couple other faces pop onto the screen as we go. All of us are busy, crazy women, and we've got some stuff happening back to back. So I'm going to do a bio on everybody, and then I'm going to kick it over to our panelists to say hi as well. Our first panelist is Liz Kane. She is the partner at OpenView Venture Partners. She sits on the investment committee and leads the firm's expansion platform. Prior to joining OpenView, she was Associate Vice President of Worldwide Business Development at NetSuite, so just a little job. She successfully scaled a 170-person global organization of BDRs. So Liz is a badass and pretty much one of my new favorite people. And it was you guys out on social media who gave us the idea of finding Liz and getting her involved. So thank you for volunteering her. All right, next I'm going to introduce Kiersey McLaughlin, my show pony. Kiersey is an inside sales representative for Vector Solutions. She's a protege in our Girls Club program. She lives in Tampa, Florida with her husband, Patrick, Black Lab Madden, and 2 stepdaughters of attending Florida State University. She's also a Peloton junkie. All right, our next panelist, Hillary Headley. Hillary is the head of sales ops and enablement at Zoom. Hillary is also in bed, terribly, terribly sick. So you can kind of pretend I'm Hillary because I have some of her points and I'm going to try to represent them here because, man, did she give good advice on this. So a little bit about her background. She loves cracking the code on go-to-market strategies to quickly grow revenue engines with scalable sales operations and enablement. And I know that word hit a few of us right between the eyes. That pre and post IPO culture where she has to bring order to the chaos, that's where she loves to be. I just love Hillary's points of view in vulnerability. I've gotten to see her at a couple conferences recently. And I'm ending with one of my dearest, oldest friends, Jennifer Killian. Jennifer owns her own consulting firm called Hit the Mark Consulting in Chandler, Arizona. Her firm specializes in change management, program management, and large-scale projects. The stuff that scares the pants off me, like software implementations and business transformations. She's from Encino, California, has a master's degree in organizational design, married 4 teenagers, 3 chocolate labs, and she just completed a huge SuccessFactors SAP implementation for Yeti coolers in Austin, Texas, which is awesome. You see myself down below and Margaret Weniger. I'm the founder of 3 brands, GirlsClub, Factor 8, and the Sales Bar. I suck at self-promotion. So this is for me to get better. And then Margaret is with us as well in the background. She's going to be manning your chats and your questions. I love the comments coming in already, everybody. Margaret's our executive director of GirlsClub. So we know that Hillary's not able to join us. I'm going to very much do my best. And we've got Liz coming in now, coming off of an important meeting. I just want to turn it over to whoa, there's timing. I'm just going to turn it over to Kiersey, Jennifer, and Liz to just tell us one interesting thing about yourselves.
Hey guys, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
So sorry.
Woo. You get 30 seconds to catch your breath. Kiersey, will you go first?
I can go first. So as Lauren said, Kiersey McLaughlin here down in Tampa, Florida. Fun fact about me, I've attended over 100 concerts, so going to live music is kind of my thing. But on the flip side, really, really nerdy. I love Jeopardy. But another quick point to make is, as Lauren said, I'm a protege in the Girls Club program. So you want to see what a shoulder tap can do. I never thought in a million years I would be doing a webinar with all of you lovely ladies, but here we are.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you're great at this. I watched Kiersey work the crowds in her company and I was like in awe, right? And she's half my age. I felt old and stupid, let's be honest. Jen, save me.
Lauren, pleasure to be here. Always good to see you. You look younger and younger every time I see you, by the way. So fun fact about me, I love big projects. I know, sick and twisted, I love them. And I've gone skydiving twice.
Yeah, this girl is not afraid of anything. I love it. Liz, we did your bio already. We're on to the fun facts. Tell us something cool about you.
I pride myself on being on time, and I'm really sorry. No, kidding aside, right now I work for a venture capital firm, and I just love working with founders and digging into like new and exciting challenges and problems. So probably pretty similar, but kind of exploring things I haven't done before and learning on the fly is kind of one of my favorite things to do.
That's so good. I love it. My fun fact, I have Irish twin boys, and this week my kids turned 7 and 8, and yesterday was my wedding anniversary, which turned 9.
Congrats.
Yeah, exactly. All my babies. Big week. Here we go. We're going to dive right in. First question for the panel. Where do we start? Like, what are the first steps to raising your level of recognition at work? Kiersey, I'm going to go to you first.
I mean, my number one fact would be don't think that a title determines who you can and can't talk to. And that goes both ways. That goes up and down. And really at that kind of have an understanding of knowing who everyone is within your company. I know it's really hard sometimes when you get these really giant offices, but knowing, you know, someone's name, being able to say hi, knowing what they do within the company goes leaps and bounds, because if you know who somebody else is, they're going to know who you are.
I watched you do that. Right? It was amazing. And you guys, she did it so seamlessly, just perfectly confident and comfortable with the admin at the happy hour and the CRO. It was so cool to watch that cool confidence. I thought that was fantastic. Jennifer, what's one way to get started?
I think, I don't think you can get started unless you do excellent work. So just remember that you don't know what people are seeing or not seeing, and that your work is your brand. So always start with doing everything in an excellent way.
Yeah, perfect. Right. We think that we have to do extra stuff, but just working well and doing excellent work. Liz, how about you? What's your take on this?
So I had a mentor like pretty early in my career give me a piece of advice that I thought was really good. He told me to be responsive and get stuff done. He didn't use the word stuff. And it was funny. He told me that if you did the first one, you can mask the second one for a while. And I laughed at that because I see it all the time at work right now. So many people were like in an era of like hundreds of emails every day, respond really quickly. Like, I got this, I'm on it, I'm on it. And then like 3 days later, you still don't have anything from them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those two pieces are really important. Regardless of the level of person who's asking for help, whether it's a peer, someone that works for you, someone that you work for, being responsive, letting people know that you've received their request, that you're actually setting a deadline, that you're taking it on, or not. Saying no is okay too. But when you commit to something, actually getting it done. And I couldn't agree more with you, Jennifer. Doing it in an excellent way, I think, is probably even more important than that. Not just done, but done right.
You know, it's so funny how important that is. I think right now of who's responsive, right, on my team or who I've worked with in the past, and I have an immediate answer.
Yeah.
There's always a got it or a question or on it or right. That it makes a difference. It really raises your profile in the eyes of the folks you're working with.
Yeah, and just closing the loop on everything, even if it's a really minor response that's, hey, thank you, or like almost just like acknowledgement of receipt. I think that's actually really important to people to know that you are like on top of what you're responsible for.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to be 3 different people right now. Advice that I've received from some amazing women. That's just a weird picture I thought I would give you all as a gift today. Hillary from Zoom, Sharon Martin, and Isabel Yanni at Cisco had the coolest advice. And the advice is know your brand. Now, I know that in my 20s, I really did wonder, like, what is it that people think about me? Right. And the first time I heard that somebody thought I was kind of a hard ass / let's be honest, bitch, like I cried. I was like, seriously, that's what people think of me. I had no idea. We do wonder. Right. And so there is a way that you can go and find out. So Hillary says, specifically test by asking people how they would describe you in 3 bullets. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you can go to anybody and do this and say, listen, right, I'm really working on my development this year. We work together a lot. I've chosen you because we're close partners, because we have had difficulties in the past, because I really respect your opinion, right? Any of these that fit. How would you describe me in 3 words? Feel free to think about it. Feel free to email me, right? The ladies at Cisco took that up a level and said, get your mentor or advocate in the company to do it for you, right? So that would look like Kiersey coming to my team saying, Lauren's really working on her self-development, right? What are 3 words that you'd use to describe her? It will be anonymous. Kiersey aggregates the data. But then what's cool is that she asks me for the same thing and compares them. And that's a really neat next level test, right? What do you think you're putting out there? What do they think it is? What was cool about Hillary's story was that she said almost every single time, the first 2 things you hear are positive. The 3rd thing is your challenge or an area that you need to work on, right? And then you know your truth. Now, that's scary to some of us, okay? There are some people right now that are thinking about how painful that would be. Lean into that. That's where the good stuff starts and comes, right, ladies?
I love that.
Right? Know your brand. I thought that was really good. Any other last thoughts on this before I move to our next question?
Hey, Lauren, we have a question from the audience. Sheila asked about, now that you have the 3 words, what do we do next?
Oh, that's good. I'm going to kick it to the panelists first. Who's got an idea there?
I'm happy to jump in. So I actually think acting on feedback is probably one of the more important things you can do as you're building your brand. And so again, acknowledging that you heard that feedback and then probably brainstorming with a couple of individuals in your inner circle to think about what that might look like. And obviously it's going to be different depending on the feedback you got. If somebody tells you that you're not responsive or that you're inconsistent or maybe you, I don't know, work faster than other people and you need to give them a chance to kind of get their own ideas out. Yeah. I think you can kind of brainstorm a work plan for yourself and make sure that you're actually putting that into action every day and then have those check-ins. So whether that's 2 weeks out, 30 days out, hold yourself accountable to actually follow up and make sure that you're getting the feedback again and you're actually making improvements. That's brilliant. Ladies, who would you involve in that with you, right? If you said, okay, I got this feedback, I need a plan. Who would you rope into the plan?
Well, you guys. I would say people that you trust, number one, but then also if you look at the purpose of this webinar today, if you're looking for recognition and self-promotion, these brand words that you're getting back about yourself are the answer as to why you are or are not moving forward. it's a gift.
Good.
So these are great identifiers on what your opportunities are. So maybe your manager, hey, I'm looking forward to getting to the next level, and I know we're going to talk about declaring that in our career. These are some things I know about myself that are opportunities for development. What do you think I can do about that? And what a great way to help your manager open up an honest conversation with you on how to move forward.
I love that. You know what? It's a really good segue into our next question, right? This is, all right, now let's go up a notch, right? This is how you get recognized and how you get known, right? Knowing your brand means you've got your own story to tell. But now, how do you advocate? How do you advocate for your career, right? So Liz, I'm going to take it to you first on this one, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think this all comes down to people. I think most people when advocating think about advocating upwards, talking to their manager, maybe even a step above their manager in leadership. But I actually believe that those peer relationships and the people that work for you are equally important. I think there's a couple of ways to develop those relationships, but one that really worked for me, especially earlier in my career, was being an advocate for others. And naturally, I think that puts you in or elevates you to a leadership position without it being too like overstepping or too braggy. It's very much about acknowledging the strengths of somebody else and calling out what they're great at and saying that to their manager, to their peers. And through doing that, I think you build closer relationships to those individuals. But then also those people are coming back to you with similar feedback, right? They feel somewhat maybe indebted is the wrong word, but like you've done them a favor. And so they want to return that, right?
Yeah.
People feel naturally like there's a give and take in a relationship. And so by being the first one to do that and being the first one to step up, I think that comes back around full circle over time.
I love that. It's not always about managing up. In fact, in my experience, that first step, right, from team player to supervisor or manager, sometimes that's getting recognized by your own boss and getting supported. Yeah. It won't happen unless you've got the support of your team. But as I rose up higher and higher in an organization, I found 100% it was my peers that got me to those next levels. Ooh, that's really good. Jen, tell us what your thoughts are on this.
Well, I think that just, you know, to dovetail on what Liz was saying, don't make it about you. I think that if you are naturally taking the attitude of, what is that saying about lowest tide raises all boats, or high tide raises all boats? If you can be one of those people that helps make sure that everyone's needs are getting met and that it's not about you, that's an attractive person to work with, because then you don't have to be defensive when you're working with them. Mm-hmm. So if you naturally are someone that is helpful, that is interested in what other people are saying and what they want to do, then walls come down with the people that you're working with, because they know it's not all about you, it's about them too.
Yeah. You know what I love about this is it's probably the opposite. Like the advice that we've given in the first 10 minutes is stuff that as a woman in business and sales, I'm 100% comfortable with.
Yeah.
And, right? Because let's be clear, I'm taking all the advice, like copious notes, even through our prep sessions. This is fantastic stuff. I don't feel confident about this. But I would have thought joining this, it would have been about, here's how you brag. Here's how you let people know. Here's how you advertise. And no, this is about being genuine and helping other people. Jen, I'm going to come back to you for a second, because you said once that you don't make it about you, you make it about great solutions, and something about like leading with the vision. I thought that was great. Tell us more.
So in consulting, I work with different teams on every project, and actually completely different companies. So I don't know anyone a lot of times that I'm working with when I come into a situation. So all I have to go towards is common goals and what success looks like for everyone involved. So I try to really start my relationships with all of the key stakeholders. And when I mean key stakeholders, that doesn't mean title. It means all of the people that are involved in the project. What does success look like to you? And what are your fears about this project? And I will tell you, in the project that I just completed, it was close to 13 months. And I went back to the key stakeholders and said, you know, do you remember when we first met and you said, this is what success looks like and this is what you were worried about? How do you think we did? And I never let go of those things, because that is what is on their minds during that project. So my guidance to anyone going into a situation, whether it's a new role, a new company, a new group of people, Is, you know, hey, what's important to you? What does success look like to you? And it's amazing how often those conversations will lead to chasms. Oh, I thought success was more revenue, but you think success is more followers. Well, that's a totally different thing. So getting that on the table early is a great way to unite the team and focus on successful solutions.
Yeah, I love that. And let's be honest, for the younger us out there, the younger us in our careers who are listening to this, that's a new way to approach a meeting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm kind of used to just sitting there and being quiet and hoping nobody calls on me and having a question through the whole meeting, but being afraid to ask it. And I want to call you out for that, because I got to work with Jen when I was in my 20s, and she was so brave. Like, Jen had no problem like calling out an elephant in the room, right? Like, I would be in 3 meetings before Jen would come to this meeting, and the whole time I'm thinking something and it's bothering me, but I feel dumb or unafraid, like I'm just not ready to say it. And Jen would walk in 30 seconds. She's like, can we level set? So tell us about that superpower and how we all develop it.
Well, I just, it's interesting. I've been kind of a project gal my entire career, either on accident or on purpose. And I found myself getting into projects too far in. It's like months, sometimes even years in, where we'd have this, you know, kind of very important conversation of, geez, I thought that you wanted X and what you really want is Y.
Right.
And
right.
what I learned early on, and especially, you know, in consulting work, is I don't have time for that. You know, our clients need to get success early, but that's true for everyone. And I think the other important thing too that I have learned the hard way, trust me, is that just because I think a certain way is the correct way to success doesn't mean that I'm right. So it's important for me to walk into that conversation truly being open to what other people have to say. And then agreeing, you know, look, let's agree and commit or disagree and commit, but this is what success looks like. This is how we're going to measure how we're doing.
Yeah.
It helps reconcile, you know, the whole pocket veto thing and people going off and kind of gossiping at the water cooler on, I don't think Sally's doing it the right way. You know, it kind of level sets everyone. So I just found that for me, it was survival. It's not really a tactic. I just needed it in project work specifically to get really crisp on what everyone was rowing towards. You know, everyone's got to be rowing in the same direction.
Yeah.
I just found there were a lot of projects that were losing money and losing engagement, which is such a shame because people were going in opposite directions.
Yeah. Jen, that took a tremendous amount of bravery. And let me tell you that as somebody who watched you skyrocket at what the company that's now Teletac, what it did, you guys, is raised her level of recognition at work. She was brave, right? We're either going to get everybody on the same page, or I loved this. Let's decide and commit, or let's disagree, like agree or disagree, and let's commit. And somebody who could drive that level of decision in a room takes guts, and it's a great way forward. Kiersey, you have a ton of really good tactical tips on this. Will you bring it home for us?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, piggybacking off of what Liz and what Jen both said, selling yourself authentically within your organization at your same level, above you, you know, it's more important, I think, at times to promote yourself outward, whether it's on your same level or below, because you're planting those seeds. You can't be in every conversation pushing yourself forward or promoting yourself for yourself. Other people have to do some of the lifting for you. So, you know, as Jen and Liz said, that's the main goal, number one, and really building that, I guess, internal fan base, so to speak. You know, ways that you can do that and accomplish it quickly. You know, hitting on what they've said, being accommodating and compromising, but also standing your ground if something, you know, really feels off to you or you don't agree with something, because people will respect that. Because they want to work with somebody that isn't you know, people want to work with people that aren't just bending to them all the time, but you really want to be known also as a problem solver. And if you can't help someone solve the problem, you can't solve it for them. You would know where to solve that problem or who could solve that problem. And the biggest tip I can say with that is always using we when you're talking to somebody with a problem. It's not their problem and they're coming to you. We all know that, but They feel like you're on a team if you're solving it together, and you can say, you know, I think this is where we are on this, or how are we doing with this? You know, where are we at? Where are we going to be? You know, did we come up with something to solve that? People immediately feel like you're aligned with them, and that's super important.
It's so obvious. Like, I know that you won the teamwork award at your company last year, right? So
I did.
like, it's just obvious that everybody, you've taken the time to go get to know everybody and who they are and what they do. And then you've become a go-to person for other people who want to solve those problems. Can you tell us any more about that?
It was a really awesome honor, to be honest. We give away 6 awards a year based on our company values, teamwork being one of them, and it's voted on internally. So you have to get nominated and then selected for the award. So, and it's a surprise. No one knows. It's a great thing. So when they announced that I won, I was just like, oh, like, you know, for me, it wasn't about getting anything. It's, you know, you're just genuinely helping people and doing your job. So yeah. It was great.
I think that's fantastic. All right. I'm going to go one more level into this rabbit hole and ask, how do we find our people, right? We're all talking about letting our peers and our teams and going out, not just up. What's the right way to go and find them? So Jen, let's start with you on this one.
So my approach, kind of a common theme, is to serve. So I have found when I was young in my career, one of the great ways I found on accident was when I would join like community groups, whether they were charities or even like here in Arizona, we have the AZ Tech Council, which is a group of people that go across, you know, different companies within the Valley. And they would have different, you know, pocket groups on different focus areas, and they have big events as well. Well, I ended up working on committees with CIOs that I would have never dreamt I would have even met, and that are still my colleagues to this day. Yeah. And then within the organization, there's often, I should say, opportunities to like do clubs, or they'll do, you know, giving back days. Those are not only great for you to join yourself, but if you have teammates or peers, hey, come, let's do this together. Let's do this. It'll give you an opportunity to not talk work for a little while, get to know each other, have a couple laughs, do something challenging together. And that builds relationships, I think, in a really unique way. So that's my approach to getting to know new people and building different relationships.
I love it. Liz, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really interesting one because there's so many different ways to do it. I think the first one that comes to mind for me is looking for the people who have a job or a component of a job that you want to do later in your career, and like seeking out those individuals. And that can be hard, especially early in your career, because you may not know. And so there's a lot of like exploration you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think making sure that you're spending time with those people in a meaningful way for both of you is really important. So that could be making sure that you have a list of questions ready, or that you're asking for some piece of advice, but that you're directing the conversation, not just asking for social time.
Yes.
And we were talking about this a little bit as we were prepping here, but I think that many people aim to build relationships through social interaction, and some people that works really well for, but trying to understand the motivations or the perspective of the person on the other end is really key. Early in my career, I was probably like the most social person. I was game to get a drink with anybody that was in town. I was traveling all the time. I was like always up to do something after work. The reality is, like, I'm an introvert, and I pushed myself into that position unnecessarily, probably. And over time, I've learned that I don't want to do things after work. I try to minimize my work interactions in non-work time. Yeah. And so what that means is that I try to wrap up my day by like 5:30 or 6 o'clock. And it's important to me that I use the time during my day as effectively as possible, which is generally shorter meetings. It means saying no to more things. And so I think my relationships tend to get built very much based around work interactions, which some people can find transactional. But if you're operating with the right person and your intent is clear, which is, I want to help you, I want to figure out how I can be most useful to you in this short period of time, it can really work.
Good. Oh my gosh, this is great. I'm going to wrap up a little bit of some points, and then I'm going to open for some questions. Okay. Yeah. And as you're looking at questions, everybody who's joining us today, know that the next thing we're going to talk about is promotion and raises. And then we're going to talk about looking external to your company, right? So that may be LinkedIn, it may be experts, it may be speakers, et cetera. So hold those questions till the next section, but prep anything else you've got now. Finding our network, right? Early on, it may be about social, it may be about lunches, etc. But something I really have to underline to especially some of our up and coming women out there is you must be respectful of the time. The number one complaint we got from mentors in our Girls Club program was after the first couple meetings, the proteges just sort of showed up and didn't have a plan. I have volunteered my time to mentor people who missed meetings, had no agendas, and I cut them loose quick. And listen, look at Jen's face, right? The opinion goes down in a really big way. Now, to my women who are more at the top end of their careers, listening to this and helping the next generation, I initially felt silly saying, I'm sorry, I can't take that meeting. I like to pick up my kids from the bus stop on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? I literally didn't say that. And then just last night, I had a guy in Singapore, hey, can we have this call again tomorrow? And little Lauren was like, okay, yeah, sure. Here, I can get somebody to cut. Like, I was so ready to do it. And then I got my big girl pants on. I was like, listen, hey, you know what, Greg? No, my home time is really important to me. I'm picking up my kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have a wonderful friend, a thought leader in our program, Lynn Parker, who does not work on Fridays. And clients try to bully her into it all the time. And the best thing we can do as leaders in our organization and role models, because ladies, you are a role model to someone right now, whether you know it or not, is be okay with that and role model doing it for the up and coming generations. Balance is important. All right, let's open it up for a couple questions before we move on to promotions and raises. Margaret, who do we have?
Yeah, so Stephanie asked a really great question to Liz's comment about having a male mentor advocate early in her career. And she wanted to know from the panelists if they could give their opinion on the difference between a mentor or advocate. Is there really a value in seeking guidance from members? I misread it. Seeking guidance from members of different gender. So does it make a difference to have a male versus a female mentor or advocate?
Let's all shake our heads one way or the other right now. Yeah?
I'm torn.
Yeah.
So I actually don't think there is a difference between having male and female mentors. I think it's important to have both though, because I do think at times you will get different perspectives and you want to be able to represent those. So I have had amazing male mentors, I've had amazing female mentors. I don't think there is like one that is better than the other, but I actually think having a diversity of thought in the group of people that mentor you is probably the most important thing. And depending on their career trajectories and their experiences, you're going to get very different perspectives from people. And so I think seeking out those differences will allow you to grow faster. And sometimes those are people that work with you. Sometimes they aren't. At times, they're not even necessarily people who are more senior than you. I think people assume a mentor needs to be somebody with like 20 years more experience. And the reality is, like, I have many peers that I seek out on very different dimensions of my own job. Or my own development, who can be mentors to me in a specific area.
I think that's fantastic. Diversity is absolutely the key. We can do one more question unless I've got panelists. Jennifer, I saw you come off mute. And something important to add there?
No, I was just going to say, be clear on what you're trying to get mentored for. So if you're trying to get mentoring on moving up, then, talk to people that are good at that. If you're trying to get mentored on being a working mom, obviously that may change the profile of who you're talking to. So I think, going back to people who want mentor meetings, but they don't know what to talk about, think about what you're trying to solve, and then you will clearly have an agenda and the right people you need to go seek out.
It's great advice.
We have some really cool male mentors in the Girls Club program. And at first, my thought was, we're just going to assign amazing people out. And most of the women said, actually, I was kind of hoping I'd get a woman. And the reason for that is we don't get the opportunity to in our own organizations very often. And so what we did is we had a couple women raise their hands and double down. And they meet with both a male and a female mentor. Kiersey, was that a great experience? And was it really different?
I did. Yeah. You know what? The mentorship just of Girls Club in and of itself was probably one of my favorite parts. It's nice to have somebody that it's great to have a mentor within your organization, but it's even greater to have someone outside of your organization because they're outside of all like the internal things of the he said, the she said, or whatever is going on. You can also bounce ideas off of without them being concrete or coming back to haunt you later, which is great. But I enjoyed the perspectives of both because I actually feel like my female mentor for Girls Club worked with me on different things where my male mentor was more of like a sales ops role and really get me thinking about different things. So I think it was a really good pairing, at least for me.
Awesome. I think that's
Can
cool.
I flag one other thing, actually? So I guess one thing to call out as you get more senior in your career, I actually recently hired an executive coach, and it's a different relationship than a mentor, but I think it's something that I wish I had done sooner. And there are like awesome ways that you can do that are not like break the bank. There are tools like Go Coach is an awesome female founded business that basically looks like Catalent for coaches to me. It's hourly coaches that you can hire in like short piecemeal bets. But when you have something you're really actively working on, you can go find the right person to work on that with in a very like systematic way that doesn't mean going and seeking out somebody in your organization. And I think people should do that for themselves more rather than assuming it's going to come through their work.
It's so smart to say that. Margaret, our executive director and our administrator here, has introduced me to that world this year and advocated for it. And what a difference these women make. So people on my team are working with Jen Hope, who's an amazing coach, and one of our thought leaders, Carol Mahoney, is an amazing thought leader and coach in our group. It's like when you pay somebody, they show up even bigger and better for you, and so do you. I love it. All right, I'm going to move on to our next one. Let's get serious, ladies. Like, let's apply these ideas to the hard stuff, and that's promotions and raises. And that can be tough, right? So I'm going to let Hillary lead on this one, if you can just pretend that I'm younger and cuter than I am. Hillary says that like somebody else needs to be able to tell your story. And you guys, this is what we talked about earlier with your brand. When you know what your bullet points are, you can help other people tell it. So build yourself a one-pager. Okay. So when you want to go in for a promotion, for a raise, whatever it is, one page is critical. One pager does not mean 6-pager. Okay. Like the leaders are busy. They're not going to read the novel. They need the cliff notes. So if you don't know how you're going to show up and tell your story, nobody else can. Does that make sense? And it will be scared it'll be hard to do this, right? But Hillary told me a story about when she was talking to her mom 20 years ago. And she was like, Mom, like, I'm not making as much money as the guys. I know this. And her mom said, should you be? And she thought, right, like we all do. And the answer was hell yeah. So she said, put together a one-pager, go in there with data and your own story, be able to tell it concisely, and ask for it. And if it's a no, then you know. That's all there is to it, ladies. If it's a no, then you know. And that's just as important, I think. Kiersey, can I come to you first on this one? Let's hear your story. Like you recently were promoted, and I want to hear that story, but you also had some points about like keeping track of things. Talk to us about that.
Sure. So, well, I loved Hillary's point of the one-pager, but I think in order to break everything down into that one-pager, it's good to keep track of as much as you can. So any accomplishments, achievements, anything that you have spearheaded, anything that is really outlined like a key success for you is very important. And that might be your 6-pager, but you know what? That can be internal. And I also think it can give you the confidence boost that you need to be able to one-page it, send it off to who needs to see that. And I think the other thing too is, you know, others can't remember everything that you do, even if you're a very active, visible person that's helping them all the time. Sometimes that little reminder of like, do you see all the stuff that I have to do? Like, I think we need to have a conversation about, you know, what my role is or what I'm getting paid. Those conversations can come a lot easier. But then I think, you know, you have to be able to know what it is that you're asking for. You can't just say, look, I do all this and then go back into the closet. You have to be able to say like, I do all this and I'm telling you this because I think we need to have a conversation and this is what I want.
That is so critical. I love it. Thank you. So by the way, to everybody out there in the social verse, just made that up. Everybody on the panel, everybody I interviewed to be on the panel, because we had hundreds of women suggested, we're all talking about keeping track of these wins. So just bank that. It's an action item right now. But I want to talk about knowing what you want for a second. I'm going to come to you, Jen. Again, right, I had the honor of working with you when we were younger. Let's just put it like that. And I watched you negotiate a maternity leave. Like, talk to us about that story.
Well, so it wasn't, so the short story is it was a project, big shocker, and the go live date of the project was the day before my due date of my first child. And so as the project was nearing the end, it was clear that I really, although I had every right and I had 1,000% support from my company that Lauren and I both worked for to take a proper maternity leave, I didn't feel right completely unplugging based on how delicate the timing was. And I think the management team felt the same way. So what we agreed to was, look, I know what you need from me, and it doesn't mean me coming into the office every day, and it doesn't mean me being on calls all day, but there's a few things that you're going to need from me. But what I need from you is for you to outfit my house with proper office equipment and a proper chair, because I'm going through some physical things and having a baby. And then when I come back, I'd like to have every Friday off for a set number of weeks so we can even this out. And what I will tell you is that I gained a lot of respect for recognizing that even though I had every legal right to, and all the support in the world to take my maternity leave, I recognized the fact that we need to figure out a win-win here. I knew what situation the company was in. I knew what I needed. And, you know, looking back, I will tell you that that was the best maternity leave I had, because having 4-day work weeks coming back to work was wonderful. So it ended up really feeling like a win-win.
Yeah, there's a path to what you want. And the key is starting with what you want. So Liz, I'm gonna let you wrap the whole thing up in a second, because you got like 7 solid tips, but hang with me. I want to hear Kiersey's story too, because Kiersey, you were offered a promotion and said no.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So this was almost a year ago, I guess. And I was approached with becoming a manager of the team that I was working on at that point. And I was so excited because I said, you know, people notice me, I'm doing great things, they're coming to me with this. But the more I thought about it, I felt like I could add more value elsewhere. And we had just acquired another company, and they didn't have the team that I was currently on. They didn't have any sort of team like that. And they were going to need one. So I asked if instead of taking that management role, if I could go lead the integration for that project. So was able to negotiate that, and I asked for more money to do it, because I said, you were going to give me this to go to this management role. I think I can add more value here. They agreed. When the project was finished, I said, okay, I'm ready to move up and back on to a different team back where I was, and was able to negotiate there. But I think at the end of the day, they saw the value that I could add elsewhere. They agreed with me, and being sincere about what I wanted, and also, like Jen, being able to get a win-win was ultimately, the greatest compromise.
And then, by the way, negotiated a different pay structure than everybody else who was on that team. And in the end, wound up making even more money. So I love that story, because it's know what you want. It's let others know your brand. It's be known as a solution provider. Go in and help others get there and be brave enough to ask for it. It's the perfect come together of the stories. Liz, I've got like 17 points from you in this area. It's so strong. Yeah, it's so strong. Give us your top 3 or 4. We're going to start moving into a little bit of rapid fire so that we've got time for some questions. Okay.
Yeah, well, let's start with, a little bit of a story building on what you guys described here. I think when it comes to promotions, it's so important for the person you work for to know what they're advocating for on your behalf. And we've talked a little bit about knowing what you're asking for from a raise standpoint. But if you just think career trajectory generally, Kiersey, probably somebody came to you because at some point you had indicated interest in being a manager. But if you hadn't done that, people assume that others are looking out for you and looking for those opportunities, but they can't do that unless you've been vocal about what you want. Very early in my career, I failed to do that. And I actually ended up looking outside my company for another role. And I got offered a job I wanted, and I came back to resign. And my boss looked at me and was like, I never knew you wanted to do that. And he was just baffled, right? He was like, you never once told me you wanted to manage a sales team. Why would I have thought of this?
Right.
It all worked out. I was able to stay with the company and actually took a job I was very excited about. But it really opened my eyes to realizing how important it was for me to have communicated more openly about what my career goals were in the future. And then that led to a couple tactical things that I've done over time. I do them for myself, and I also do them on behalf of my team. So everybody mentioned this idea of keeping track of accomplishments, of goals, of outcomes. The other thing I keep track of are notes other people said. So whether that's thank yous or recognition Or just a quick note about someone on my team related to a project. I save all that in files. So when it comes time for reviews, I can refresh myself, because you're right. People remember the last like 3 weeks of work, not the last year. And then I try to package that up. So thinking about a one-pager, you can actually do that in real time every quarter or every half year in your own review. I think most companies have some sort of review cycle now, but even if they don't, take time to reflect. What were you trying to accomplish? What did you get done against those goals? And put it together and share it with your manager, and make sure they know you're reflecting and setting goals for the next period.
So I just want to pause and punctuate that really quick.
Yeah.
Write your own review every quarter. And then I'm going to do a little add-on to that. You're going to go send, here's everything I did that was amazing. Could we talk about that and where I could also improve? Invite the feedback along the way. That way it's no big surprise. You're sending wins. If your boss is saying, yeah, but, and you don't know until you don't get the job, you're doing yourself a disservice. Liz, I'm going to come back to you. You talked about, like, you ran a big team, 50% men, 50% women.
Yeah.
Who asked for more promotions and raises?
Men generally, but it was interesting. It manifested itself in two ways. One was negotiating on the way into jobs. If you think about, most companies have some sort of bracket they're willing to pay for a certain role.
Right.
You're rarely making an offer at the top of that bracket. Most men I hired came back and asked for me to move. Very rarely did women do that. And then similarly within the roles, there are review cycles. And I would say occasionally I had women ask for promotions or for job title changes or for raises during review cycles. But I can guarantee you, like, every single guy did during that. And then the off cycles were even more apparent to me, where I would have, I much more frequently had men build a business case for why they should get a promotion or a raise off cycle. And I really almost can't think of an example where I had that happen with a woman. And I wish that it did. And so encouraging your team to actually be really thoughtful about that and thinking about why they deserve it and building the business case and helping you understand it and doing that for yourself.
Good. And listen, ladies, my leaders out there, just because nobody ever encouraged you to go and ask for a raise doesn't mean you can't encourage the people on your team. You are still being a good corporate citizen by saying, gee, how come you're not asking for anything? Right? Encourage them. When they do come and ask for raises, thank them, acknowledge, like Hillary does this, right? Acknowledge how hard it was and tell them to go back and encourage 3 other women that they're friends with to do the same damn thing. This is how we raise each other up.
I mean, one final point on that is you can't assume you're going to get it. And so I do think there is this gap. As leaders, we are going to say thank you and encourage other people to do it. It doesn't mean we're always going to give that raise or that it aligns with, like, the business objectives of the company you're working at. And so it should be a conversation, and you should be doing that regularly. And if you're working at a great company and with great people, they will be respectful of that and excited that you're doing it. But it's not a given.
God, I love it. Just because all the men asked doesn't mean you said yes.
No.
But listen, ladies, if we save up our ask until we are overdue for it, just speaking from personal experience here, when we get a no, it's crushing. If we ask more often, if we build the muscle, then we understand the give and take, and it's not so hard. So sorry to everybody's boss out there, but we're all coming for raises. Let's talk about external for a couple minutes, right? It's slightly less important to our folks here, but it's about building a brand, right? Like, there are some women I talk to who are all over LinkedIn. Everybody's heard of them, 10,000 followers. Holy cow, right? And other women who it's obvious, like, just kind of stay in their own company. And you never see them anywhere, right? They don't even have a profile out there. So I just want to get one why. Like, why should we do an external brand, right? So Jen, can you give us 2 points on that?
Well, I would say what I learned the hard way, when I started my career, I was with one company for 10 years and then another one for 8 years. And it was so devastating for me personally when I left that company, because I didn't know who I was if I wasn't working for XYZ company. And what I learned after that was, well, those companies were such great chapters in my life, but they weren't me and they weren't my life.
Yep.
So from a personal perspective, if your company is going through change or you're changing and you're finding that you're not jiving with where you're at today, don't ignore that voice, because you are not the company you work for.
Awesome.
So if your life is changing or you're finding yourself in a different place, maybe you're getting acquired or vice versa, pay attention to who you are and the give and take between you and your employer.
One more time, getting outside of your own company walls. I cannot tell you the tragedy of how often women reach out for the very first time when they have to. Yeah. And it's too late, right? Because you got to build credits in the bank, right? With people and helping others and adding value. So Liz, how do you get started in building an external brand, and how has it served you?
Yeah. So maybe I'll give the tangible, like how it's helped me first and then go backwards. But I think it's really helped me in two areas at different points in my career. The first is actually in recruiting. I speak at a lot of conferences, I write a lot, and what I've found is that it's actually allowed me to pull great talent into the organizations I work in, both because they see an opportunity to build a brand for themselves, and because I'm a little bit more known. And so when I go to do these things, they're like, oh yeah, I did see you speak at that, or you're an expert in this thing. And then secondly, it's actually how I got my job at OpenView today. Many years ago, I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago now, I was speaking at a conference, and met one of the partners of OpenView there. And it was a early connection. We got coffee every 6 or 9 months over a period of many years. And when I did pick my head up and was ready to start looking around, they were there, and we had built this relationship that I wouldn't have otherwise found without having that external brand.
I love it.
So how to do it? I would say you have to figure out a few things that you're confident talking about, and then you act on those. And so I think the most important thing is pick something you're an expert in, or something that you're passionate about, something you know really well, and start to develop your talk track, your opinions on that thing. And that can then be used to go on a podcast. It can be used to respond to comments on LinkedIn. It can be used to become a particular like deck that you give at conferences, or a topic for a fireside chat. Yeah. But start with this core of things you're confident talking about so that you can actually build on it.
Good. I love it. I'm going to share a final 2 points from Samantha McKenna, head of enterprise sales at LinkedIn, and Hillary Headley at Zoom. Start with the goal of adding value. Mm-hmm. When you learn something that is cool, get it out there. That's the stuff you share. Does that make sense?
Love that.
So it's learnings. You can also reach out and ask to be interviewed. Everybody's got a podcast now, right? And they're looking for people, and they love practitioners. So that's another great place to start. So LinkedIn and there. There are literally 25 questions. Holy cow. I don't think we're going to get to all of them. I'm going to speed through a final 2 slides and tell you where you can get access to these women more often. And then we're going to answer as many questions as we can live. The rest will be addressed offline. So we'll get their input from the experts. There will also be a downloadable version of this in an ebook where we dive in a little bit deeper. If you loved this interaction for the last 50 minutes, then let me tell you, you need to get on a plane and come see us all in Park City, Utah. Our finale event of our first generation training program is there. We've got headline speakers that make so much money being on frontline stages, and you get to interact with them for a day and a half in a very intimate setting. Amazing stuff. So there are 30 sessions like this one and others. So come join us there if you can. The links will be sent out in email, and Margaret may even have time to chat them. I'm also very excited to announce that our exclusive training program is opening back up for Generation 2. Nominate someone now. A tap is a powerful thing. So most women do not raise their hands until they feel they're 100% ready for the next job, okay? Applying to be a part of the training program is not saying I'm ready. It's not saying I think I'm deserving. It's saying I'd like to explore my options. I'd like to learn more and get help getting there. And that's why we built this program, is to get you there. If you think you may want to get into management and explore it in the next 2 years, you need to nominate yourself to be in this program. Those are our favorites. Every other woman on here, I'm asking you to go tap 2 others. Because when you tap a woman and encourage her, something beautiful happens, right? Like once we encourage folks to get involved, they take off like rocket ships. And what's the worst that's going to happen is you're going to make somebody's day. So thank you very much for that. There's links here. Again, we'll send them out. I've got time for one final question. Margaret, what's the doozy that's going to bring this home?
Oh, geez, no pressure.
Right?
Oh my gosh. I think this one's really good. And I'm going to use my own personal agenda here, but this is a big one that you face. We got a great question that asked about when you've got someone on your team who's making a lot of noise and leadership pays attention to them and they're getting opportunities because of the noise they're making. You also are doing great work and have great relationships in the company, but people don't seem to be paying attention. Most importantly, your boss doesn't seem to be paying attention. How do you handle this situation, and how do you get noticed?
Ladies, I'm clueless. I can't wait to learn. Kiersey, I'm going to come to you, right? You were tapped to do this project, but you're at our front lines right now, right? And I know that there are other noisy people around you, right? Have you had that experience where you're like, how come he gets all the attention?
I have, and I mean, easiest way, especially for if their boss isn't paying attention, I think that's a good cause for a one-on-one conversation of, hey, it seems like you pay a lot of attention to this person, but maybe we can have a conversation about what I'm doing, that sort of thing. Again, it's hard to be, a voice for yourself sometimes when you just want your work to speak for you, but at times, people are out there making noise, and sometimes you have to make a squeak to hop up in there with the noise.
Is it possible that in this situation, you have not had the conversation with the right people? Is somebody else getting tapped because they don't know you want to be on the committee? You're interested in moving up, right? In my career, that's been the case. Like, why do I always get passed over? Oh, I never freaking raised my hand. Liz, you were nodding. Anything to add?
Yeah, I guess the one thing that comes to mind for me is understanding what motivates different people. And so I've watched this in myself and then in teams I've managed, that some people are motivated by external recognition. Some people don't care about that. They care about their title. Some people care about money. Some people care about their split between personal time and work-life balance. Right. But I think in a case like this, what you're describing, I think it's first kind of checking yourself and understanding, like, are they getting things I want, or is it just I'm like falling kind of prey to that noise too? Ooh. And I have found there are times in my career where I feel this like inkling of jealousy, and I'm watching somebody do things, and then I take a second, I'm like, but I don't want to do that.
Oh my God, that was powerful.
Like,
yes.
I'm very happy to do what I'm doing, and yes. I should go advocate for like more money or for something else related to it, but I don't actually want this recognition that person's getting, or to be the person that has to run the team meeting or whatever.
That was fantastic.
So something to think about there.
Really good. Know what you want. Jen, final words.
I would just say, if you are not getting what you want, then say something for sure. I don't want to lose that point. I would also encourage you to be happy for that person, because being bitter isn't attractive to anyone, whether you're a man or a woman. So if someone is enjoying success and it's well-deserved, be the first one to say, congratulations, well-deserved, because that makes the culture better. And that's the kind of person that you want your brand to be, I think, because that's how you get invited to more things.
Oh, what a perfect way to end. I loved it. We talked about doing this authentically, and that tied it all up in a great big red shiny bow. Jennifer Killian, Liz Kane, Kiersey McLaughlin, Hillary Headley and Estevcha, Margaret Weniger, the entire staff behind Girls Club, especially Chandra and Kaylee, thank you for helping make this possible. Folks, watch your inboxes for the replay. It will be a few months till we get an ebook out, and the questions will happen answered sometime between now and then, which is me undercommitting, just so we're clear. This was fantastic and fun, and I have a million notes. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you
all. Right.
Thank
have
you.
a great rest of the week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.